when I speak about NATO being a paper tiger, I mean it. When I speak about European NATO, it's a joke, despite the fact that they make those grandiose, statements and can do piracy and terrorism. They still can do it. French, for example, think for some reason that they're great nations. They are not. They basically will cease to exist as a nation by about 2050. And I know, but as I already stated before, and this is not much of the hyperbole from me. The only thing I really care about is what units or formations of Russian armed forces will be saving the treasures of the Louvre, because French cannot do anything about it. And so here it is. This is the demonstration. Remember this fanfare? Remember this, chest thumping? Well, yeah, Germany and France, they're two big hunches, So, Halt joined fifth generation, whatever, as fighter jet. According to the information obtained by Spiegel, the development of the joint European fighter jet will be terminated. Chancellor Merz and President Macron have agreed on this. The jet was intended to replace the Eurofighter. Well, as you can see yourself, they obviously are very good at making mock-ups. I mean, in terms of developing something flying, they are not. And this is the critical part of the armed forces. And as you see yourself, Europe doesn't have the fifth generation fighter. The fifth generation fighter, or whatever passes for it by the United States, which is F-35, which is a flying lemon, despite the fact that enormous effort being, undertaken to fix all those problems of this rather unimpressive machine, they will be buying it from the United States. That was the plan. Okay, it's a Dutch, rather, essentially, between United States and Europeans. United States produces, well, basically junky weapons, but very expensive one, and as they like to call it, combat proven by killing children, women, civilians, and they sell it to those Europeans. 3 times or 4 times the price they are worth, apart from the fact that most of them, they do not work. And so this is the result of all, essentially, basically development of the combined West in the last 3 decades. A lot of grandiose statements, very little in terms of the practical applications, and what can I say? We can sit here and discuss it until hell freezes over, but the problem with the essentially combined West now, it lost the arms race by a mile. In fact, the gap is actually expanding. It's getting larger and larger and larger. And as we can state now, in terms of real hypersonic weapons, they will not be able to close this gap, because by the time they will be producing something like, and I'm not talking about this joke of the Dark Eagle with the 13-kilogram vehicle. Now, by the time they will be getting into anywhere which is remotely could be called the hypersonic weapons, first, Russia already has the air defense complexes which can intercept it. These are S-500, these are S-300 V4s, and things of this nature. And even S-400 with the newest missiles can do that. But now, what do you want to do when you have actually the new types of hypersonics, apart from they like to call it FOBs, fractional orbital bombardment systems, but RS-28 Sarmat is now officially on the first line service, and yes, it has unlimited range and it flies such way there's no technology United States can come up with, apart from all kinds, yet another iteration of the Strategic Defense Initiative, also known as the Star Wars, which produced some good results. For example, internet, the thing which we are communicating with each other right now, was to a large extent part of this development. In terms of the actual combat systems, no, produced absolutely nothing. It was one of the most wasteful and BS programs in history. So it gave the developments of some components of something, but it absolutely didn't produce a real revolution in military affairs, which of course Russians produced. And they declared it in 2018. But many people, as I already stated, because the average journal in the world is a moron, which zero background in anything, they we're calling it boutique. Now it's not boutique; it's a mainstream. And if you take a look again, as I already stated, at the results of the real results and real situation line of combat contact in with Russians moving westward non-stop every day, and you saw yourself demolishing essentially remnants of the whatever the those terrorist organizations and forces of Ukraine are. What can I say? I mean, people, live in a postmodernist actually state of mind. But basically, you can sell any BS to them, and they will believe it. They will believe that what you can prove now that men can be pregnant. And yes, in some countries you could be actually essentially imprisoned if you in Europe, so-called free Europe, if you insist that it cannot happen. So there you go. And this is the world we live in. And so, what can I say? If you take a look at overall picture, at both essentially in Ukraine and at the obviously Iran. And again, it has been stated that Trump already declared 37 times that he defeated Iran. I want to bring up to you, the Israel press. Look at this. This is Israel's right, and this is the thing which is is a part of the West. It's integral part of the United States. It controls United States. And here it is. Look at this. Israel admits it did not expect Iran to follow through on threats. Oh, you know what? Israel may have fired last in the current round, but it did so in a limited manner without U.S. support and under Iranian dictates. Alongside the deep frustration, a question is also emerging. Will Israel continue striking in the Daria, or it will absorb fire as a territory at its territory to prevent an Iranian attack? It talks about the last weekend, again, conflagration between Israel and Iran, when Iran responded totally in accordance to the Iranian promises, as they said they will do. And then now Israel says, oh my God, we didn't believe that it could do it. Well, it can. Iran can actually turn Israel into the parking lot without any nuclear weapons. And for some reason, this is the state of mind. This is the state of mind in Washington. Take any American general or CIA big honcho. They didn't believe that Russians will go into Ukraine until 2022 because they are incompetent. They do not know actually world around them. And it has to be stated very clearly. And at this stage already, as I've been saying this for a long time now, there's very little regard to the capabilities of Israel, for example. Its air armed forces are incompetent. They lose losses are, including southern Lebanon, are very heavy. They obviously cover them up, as that's what they do. So goes for the NATO militaries, incompetent. Yeah, I'm talking about Pentagon. I'm talking about all those people who designed those, harebrained schemes. And by the way, there is a very interesting thing about the latest issue of the Vienna Mission, which also talks about the first phase in 2023 offensive operations prior to 2023 famous counter offensive by Ukraine, well, which is essentially was American counter offensive because United States officers were present even on the lower tactical level, to including the battalion in even companies in there, which of course was a catastrophe for Pentagon because they don't know what operation planning for real war is, and they didn't know what the combat control in the real combat conditions is. And so, what can I say? They're right about it, and they're not impressed. Russians haven't been impressed really with the Gulf War. I spoke about it many times, and people with a serious military background who didn't look at the video feed, so to speak, from CNN and what happened during the Gulf War and during 2003 against what essentially was utterly corrupt and combat incapable force of Iraq, they were not impressed. They haven't been impressed. And that's what probably drives those people mad, because they wanted to show how great they are, how amazing the finest fighting force in history per Obama. But it is not, and it never was. And that is why when Russians begin to now, there is a series of incredible articles about with the analysis and with the data on what they were doing, especially in Ukraine, Pentagon and those Wiesbaden group, those people in Brussels, they were planning all that. The extent of their capability is Kursk, to enter about 15 kilometers deep into something and commit atrocities. That's about it. That's the extent of what they can do before they will be killed. And so this is essentially the state of the combat, abilities, capabilities of the modern NATO. It's a paper tiger, and we can sit here and discuss whatever, especially Iran did United States military. I'm not talking about even Israel. Israel is now in the state of shock, despite the fact that they will deny, of course, because the only what they are good at is the PR. They are good. They think they are good at the psychological operations, all kinds of the propaganda, but that's the extent. Militarily, nope. Technologically, no. I am on record. You can quote me. Even U.S. military, I'm not talking about even European militaries, which are impotent in real war, and with the exception of small French, essentially nuclear deterrent, they are not good. They are absolutely stuck and obsolete in the 1990s, and that's about it. And obviously, it doesn't get me many friends. But this has to be stated, because essentially people now are coming out and saying, dude, look at that. That's what essentially we're talking about in the latest articles from the Военное мысль. And I wrote 4 books on that. That if you think that you can fight real war with that, especially in the 21st century, I have a bridge to sell, and cash only.